Hi guys, it's Sim, owner and operator of Two Feathers Survival, a custom knife and survival shop. Welcome to this episode of Into the Woods. A phrase comes to mind that I have recently seen in some various books and I've seen on some channels. Simple fact is, nothing in life is guaranteed. Beautiful days like this are times that you really start to appreciate things like that. Got clothes on my back, hat on my head, it's a cooler day, listening to the sound of the birds. So if we stop and pause and think about that a bit further, what does that exactly mean? Nothing in life is guaranteed. It's an easy thing to, when you really think about it. Knives, tools that we have, our homes, our jobs, our families, none of that's a real guarantee. It's always subject to change. Well, that's kind of what bushcrafting is all about, this modern primitive thing that I've spoke of in other videos. So if I come into the woods with the knowledge that's in my brain, the knowledge of how to do things like creating a spoon from a piece of downed wood, or if I've harvested a piece of wood from a tree, then I've got something really to work with. I can now create things that are going to help me make my time in the woods easier and that I can have fun with. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day, as a matter of fact. Come out here and I've got my carving knife, I've got a piece of wood that I can carve on, and I can make a spoon. Most people would tend to go to the store, buy their spoon, buy their spatula, buy whatever, buy their food, which is a whole other topic, and they don't stop and think about, where does that come from? What does it really take for somebody to produce that thing? Think about this. Have you ever really stopped and said, where the heck does all the food come from? It's a question I find myself asking quite a lot. We as a society have become very separate from our food supply. It's no longer the corner farm that we go to barter and trade for different things. No longer do we have the ability to have our own gardens and can. When's the last time you've seen somebody canning their own fruits and vegetables? It's probably been a while for a good number of you out there. But I can remember my grandparents in Virginia doing that and have very fond memories of it. It was amazing food. The taste was way different. Now you've got things like Monsanto, chemically modified beef. They're just pushing all kinds of antibiotics into the different wild, the different animals that are there, and you have no idea what's in this stuff. I read an article the other day about meat and a meat glue, as a matter of fact. They take bits of meat, push it all together in a tube, and now you have what looks like a prime cut of meat when it's not. It's all leftover junk meat. Well, a lot of that stuff is out there and is probably something that you've eaten and just don't know about it. Those are the things that bushcraft is kind of about. Reconnecting you to this primitive style of life that we know how to go out and do things for ourselves, and I don't have to be waiting for the government to come rescue me if it's in a situation where, let's say it's a hurricane or an earthquake or a major fire or whatever disaster you want to talk about. The zombie apocalypse, it's coming. Well, there are zombies out there. They're out there today. They're the people who don't know how to do things, that haven't prepared, and they're ready to take things from you after about 3 days or so. Remember what the government says: 72-hour survival kit, 72-hour emergency kit. Warning, Will Robinson, danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. There's a reason why they've told you that. Think about it. It's places like this that people tend to mess up. This is where they get stuck on the food must have food, because we've programmed ourselves on our day-to-day lives that we need to eat 3 times a day, and they spend vast amounts of times looking for the high caloric things, the big gains, when they stop and realize that most of the food that they're going to find and easily obtain is right under their feet. Clearly this isn't working. I need to try something else. Alright, so my improvised fishing pole isn't doing a darn bit of good for me. But what I do have is some knowledge that can make this work. And the cool thing is I can make this work and actually have about 5 or 6 of me sitting here fishing or along this lakeway or riverway or whatever it is that you have, because my choice of a fishing pole was a basic green sapling that can also provide the use of a engine, as long as I understand a little bit about how to build traps. So if I understand how to build traps, I can take that knowledge and turn it into a trap system that works as a fishing system and uses the exact same mechanism. So what I have is an engine, basically a green sapling, that I can utilize with some other trap building experience and knowledge and make it work for a fishing system. As long as I understand that and I have the knowledge to build something like that, and I have some basic tools, i.e. a knife or a cutting implement of some sort, I can use this green sapling and another piece of stick material to build a trap with. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. The other good thing with this is I now have the ability, by way of my knowledge, to make something that is going to work for me in a situation that I don't have to be right there to babysit the thing the whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of this prepped out, and I'll tell you about what it is that I'm going to actually do here. Alright, so I've got 2 sticks. Basically is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut a stop notch here at the top of this one. Do the same thing after I clean up the front of this one as well. And I'm going to cut in a 7-notch. I'm going to do the same thing in about the area on this one. So basically is what I'm going to have is 2 sticks that will lock in together, utilizing my engine at the top to keep both of these tight. From here I'm going to run my fishing line off from this piece, which goes out towards the water. That way, if a fish comes along, takes hold of the baited hook, is what it's going to do is cause this linkage here to break away, and that's going to start the springing action, which will set the hook to the fish. Good thing is I can build as many of these as I've got line to build with, and I could use inner strand of paracord, I could use some weight of a tarred bank line, which I should have in my kit anyways, or I could use the traditional monofilament fishing line. So let me reposition the camera, I'll show you what we're doing here. Okay, so what I need for this is basically 3 sticks. I need my fishing rod that I was already using, that I had tried to catch unsuccessfully with earlier. I need a stake that's going to go into the ground, so this is why I've taken this one down to somewhat of a point. Keeping in mind too that the sharper your knife is, the easier this type of carving is going to be. And I always want to carve away from myself. I don't want to ever carve back towards my body this way, because if I get some type of a mechanical injury in my hand or leg or whatever, or worst case is I actually take and really cut myself bad and now I have an injury where I may possibly bleed out, that just made my whole day out here in the woods way worse. So don't want to do that. I'm going to take and clean off a little bit of the spare wood here at the top. So this is going to be, after I put my 7-notch in the top here, this is going to be my stick that's going to go into the ground. So I've got a decent point to drive that in. I've got my other piece here, and this is actually going to be my other part of the 7-notch, but let me start this one first. So I need to first make a stop, so I can get a baton here, get myself into some level ground. And what I want to do is just drive this knife in a little bit to a point where I don't want to cut beyond, but I want it to be a nice clean notch. So I take my stick, I go in little ways, pull this back out. Now I come below this point, and now I can start carving back towards that. This 7-notch is an easy notch to do, and the good thing is, once I've got this skill set down, trap building can become very easily for me. I can easily do all this. I've got plenty enough wood here in the woods that I can utilize this for all kinds of different building projects. Once you learn some of the basics, the rest starts to fall in place really easy, and it's really nice once you've got the skill set down. So, I'm going to come back into this wood here. And again, I've chosen a nice piece of hardwood for this. This is the ironwood that we harvested earlier, and I'm just going to clean all this up a little bit. Okay, so make sure you can see that. There's my 7-notch. Basically looks like a top of a number 7. And I'm going to take this piece, and if I need to shorten this down some I can, but this piece is going to basically be the reverse of that. And then I've got a spot on the top there that I can tie all this off to. So what I want to do is do a 7-notch on this. If I need to, I can come back in and flatten some of this off some, which is going to make this trigger a bit more precise and give a spot for these two pieces of wood to marry up to. So I'm just going to go ahead and get some of that out of here right now. And again, I can fine tune this as I need to. My notch just a little bit more. This is the fun part about bushcrafting too, gang. You get to come out here, try these type of things. Now you'll see kind of how these are going to set in. So I'm going to take and clean this 7-notch out a little bit. But I come out here and I don't really have anything really planned today, so I get to enjoy a nice day out in the woods and practice some skills that potentially can save my life someday, and understand the principles of some of these improvised trap building systems. And again, none of this is hard. So I got this 7-notch pretty well cleaned out. Got the top rounded down. This is going to be the part that goes to my trigger. Okay, easy enough. And now I've got a point where these two are going to go ahead and sit in. See how this is? I need to get a flat spot here. Come back a little bit off the notch. Flatten out this area here. Nice precise, nice controlled cuts on the wood. Once I have this skill, this is something that I can do fairly quick and easy. And I can make several of these. I can put them to work for me while I go do other things. Might be building a shelter, looking for more wild edibles off the forest floor like I had shown there, which I was showing while we were collecting some of these materials. So there we go. So now I've got two 7-notches with a flat spot, and I've got a way to have these connect in, because all they have to do is provide enough tension. So from here, I'm going to put my engine in the ground, which is AKA fishing pole, run a bit of string around this, So as the fishing pole is pulling up, this will be in the ground with my line going off towards the water. Line will go here and then up to the rest of the pole. When the fish comes along, takes the hook and pulls it, this piece will come off, allowing this to spring up. So it's a basic trap engine. Nothing hard here. Drive this into the ground. I'm not going to set this into the water. I'm just going to show you how all of this is going to work. So let me get my line around here. Change the camera angle a little bit and we'll be good to go. Alright, so I've got my first 7-notch here in the ground. Slight angle. I'm going to take my pole, which also I've staked off. Put this in the ground just behind it. And from here, I'm going to put some tension on this, and I may need to move some of this, which is fine. So I put some tension on this, bring this around the 7-notch, once or twice, put that down, figure out where I need to be with a knot. Now, the thing is, we want to have this pulling pretty much straight down. So if I need to move the engine, or aka pull, I can do that, because I want to keep this pretty much straight up and down. Still might want to catch. Use this part of the 7-knot some. So, I'm taking this notch a little bit deeper. Try that out. Alright guys, so here we have our engine. That's going to provide the setting action of a hook. I've got my line coming down to my 7-notch stick. I've got one as a stake and one as the triggering device. I shortened it down just a little bit. It was a bit long. And I have my line that would run out into the water, and that could be any type of line. It doesn't really necessarily matter. So when this type of a device goes off, this is what you're going to get. This would pull up. The stronger you make this piece, the better off you're going to be. The more engine that you have, the more tension that you have on your triggering device, and that would cause the hook to get set into the fish. Now with this into the ground, you would see your pole doing that, and you know that you've got a fish on it. So I'll go ahead and reset. And as soon as I get this reset, I'll give you guys a closer angle. And here's a little bit closer view of what that would look like as it's all staked out. And this would provide food for you while you're out doing other things. So this is a great skill to have, and this is a basic trap set. Anybody can do this. It doesn't take much real time. It took me about 10-15 minutes maybe after you tweak it, and the finer, the more hair trigger you get this type of a set, the better off you're going to be and more fish that you have.
And literally, guys, you can put 5 of these out, 10 of these out, whatever you've got line for, and now I've got 10 guys trying to fish for me while I'm out doing other things. So definitely a good skill to have. Here's something that I always find comical. Out here looking for some wild edibles along the forest line, and you need to always be on the lookout for tinder. You never ever know what you're going to find. And here is a bit of milkweed, and I don't see any parent plants around at all with this, but it's right here in the same area that I just found some wood sorrel. So for sure I'm going to go ahead and collect this, because this is something that I want to take with me and utilize this for fire lighting. This is great natural dry tinder. This works perfect. So this, coupled with either a flint striker or a ferro rod or whatever it is that I have, is going to help me get a fire started with no problem. So we're going to go ahead and take this. Alright guys, something else that I wanted to take some time and talk about before it all blows away here is the milkweed that I had found, and I told you it would make great natural tinder, and it really does. It works just like the cotton. Anything dry and very fibrous like this is something that I can utilize as a great natural tinder. When I get a chance to collect it, I want to do that, put it in a bag, put it in my pocket, or have it as I see it. That way I have it with me when I need it. The other thing that you see down here, I've got 2 of the Habilis Exotech fire rods. One is an orange, which is pretty easy to spot. The other is the gunmetal gray, not so easy to spot. Something to think about when you are setting up your knives in your kit and your must-have items, and a fire striker like this is definitely a must-have item. Think about color combinations. If I were to just simply drop both of these down, one you can see fairly easy and the other one's a little bit harder to find. So as I lose things in the woods, and if I'm cold or shaking and I drop a piece of gear like this, I want to be able to retrieve it from the forest floor as quickly and as effectively as I can. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get a knife out here and we're going to strike this. I'm going to show you how easily the milkweed takes a spark. Alright guys, I have a striker and I have a knife, and I'm going to cast a couple of sparks onto the milkweed fluff here and show you how this would help to assist you in starting a fire. Pretty quick. It's kind of like putting a spark on gasoline, guys. Doesn't take much at all, and it lights right off. You see it's still holding that spark now. And again, if we get that. Now, the other thing that we're going to have to make something like this work is our other dry tinder and larger fuel sources available for use. So this is a great find. It would be a lifesaver if we had to have a fire today. And this is something to keep your eye out for. And there it was, just out in the open while I was looking for other wild edibles. So while we're out trying to obtain a large stick for an improvised fishing pole, don't forget to look down at your feet. A couple reasons. One, we want to make sure that we're not getting ready to step on a poisonous snake or beehive or whatever the case is. But the other reason is for these type of things. This is wood sorrel, right here on the forest floor, right underneath my feet, right where I was trying to harvest a stick for our fishing pole. And this too is a wild edible. It's very easily identified. It has a leaf with, or has a plant with 3 leaves that are heart-shaped. There is no, along the base of the heart here, there is no white ring, which looks cross-hatched. If that was, that's okay, because that plant would be clover, and clover is also a wild edible. This has a very sweet taste to it, almost bitter, a bit citrusy kind of, I guess you could say. Wonderful addition to either a wood sorrel soup or a salad or whatever it is that you want to do with this plant, but it's all over. It's here and it's also down the hill just a bit farther from me. One caution on this and things like dandelion, it's loaded with oxalic acids, so ingesting too much of this, if you've got a problem with kidney stones, could be a little bit hard on the kidney to process out those oxalates. So be careful and use it in moderation, and make sure that you're keeping yourself hydrated as well as you're doing that. get you in a little bit closer here. And in this shot you have a bit better view of the heart-shaped structure I was talking about, and the fact that it's on a single stem with the 3 leaves, and the 3 leaves look like small hearts with no white ring along the bottom. Like I said, that white ring would be indicative of clover, which is also an edible, but here it is, free for the taking, and it does taste very good. Always the small things that you want to look for. Down here I've got a little patch of wild lettuce, not far from where I was with the other wild edibles. It's all right here, all free for the taking. Just need to spend some time looking down and not looking out. Make sure that you realize where you're walking to. It's always a good thing. You never know what you might be getting ready to step on, or when you've got free food like this right at your feet. It's a great find. Alright guys, well, not far from my last stop with the wood sorrel, here are some shoots to what is wild lettuce. Wild lettuce is also one that's easily identifiable, and there's a couple identifiers that you want to look for. Kind of a spear point shaped leaf is the first thing with these deeply toothed lobes. To know that this is not a dandelion, you would simply turn the plant over and look at the base, and we don't see the purple vein, which is indicative of dandelion as it goes over the thing. We don't see the deeply colored purple that would make it indicative of dandelion, which is also an edible, and that whole plant is an edible, but this is wild lettuce. So now we've got the makings of a fairly good salad, and I haven't done much real looking at all. This has all been with an area of about 30 feet in diameter, and here all this stuff is just for the free taking. So pays to know your wild edibles, because this is probably what you're going to be reduced to eating in a survival situation should you find yourself in one. Wild lettuce. Tasty. It's good. Tastes just like lettuce. Very good. More of a romaine flavor. Still good though. I like it. Let's go keep looking. Okay, no big surprise what this one is, guys. Again, this is just starting to come up. Got a couple things going on here. I've got a bunch of dandelions getting ready to come up in this general area. I've got, obviously, here's one here, and we can see that the shoots are kind of young. Here's the purple part of the shoot that I was talking about earlier. You've got this kind of this red in color. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got that red in color shoot to it. And again, with the dandelion leaves, they kind of look very similar to the lettuce, but you see that the leaf is a little bit more deeply lobed. These are young, so they're not quite purple yet, but you start to see some of that purpleness there along the bottom. Hopefully you can see that on camera. The sun's changed on me a little bit, but again, this whole guy is edible too. The entire plant I can eat, including the roots. I can make some great tea out of. But now I'm on my way to a very fantastic salad, because right here in this general area I've got about 4 or 5 more of these, and they're fantastic. So now I've got a wood sorrel salad, wild lettuce. I've actually found some wild spinach near where I was finding the wild lettuce as well, and I'll talk about how to identify that here in just a second. That's amazing. Wild edible as well. And now I've got myself some of this dandelion. So as I said, the whole plant is edible, and it is. When you're doing things like this, I had a student out in the woods one time, showed him all kinds of wild edibles, you know who you are, and he wound up having an allergic reaction. Tells me later, oh well, Tim, I'm actually allergic to ragweed and pollen, and of course it was in early spring and there was nothing but ragweed and pollen pretty much everywhere. So if you have an allergy, make sure that you're taking precautions. And by the way, make sure that you consult an expert in the field of wild edibles so you know exactly what you're picking. Just don't go and see what I've done. Do your own research, do your own homework, and make sure that you're properly educating yourself before you go out and do these things. Always, always, always exercise caution.
enough of the lawyerese stuff.
Okay, so we walk a little more, find another wild edible right here on the forest floor. This, if you can see, is a clover. Do you see the white ring that almost looks like it's pointed on the leaves? The leaves are more round. This is the difference between identifying the wood sorrel and a clover. A clover doesn't have that heart-shaped leaf where the wood sorrel did. Again, this is an edible plant, and it's something that I can continue to add into my collected salad. Also, you'll see right here growing in the middle, we've got a sprig of wild lettuce just shooting up out of there. So this gives you an idea of how easy it is to identify these things as long as I know what it is that I'm looking at. If I can find these type of things, I have the makings of a great salad, and it's all compliments of the forest floor. So there's a lot of ways to find food that we don't have to spend a ton of caloric output to go and get. Everybody, when they get into a situation like this, will quickly think, oh, I need to go find a deer or a large game animal or a medium game animal or whatever it is. Sometimes it's the small things that a lot of people tend to overlook that can help us greatly in this type of a situation. So again, just another wild edible, and it's all here on the forest floor.